Every year, thousands of people walk into America's national parks and never walk out. Not because they got lost, not because of a bear attack, a fall, or hypothermia. Search and rescue teams have combed these same mountains for decades, and in case after case, the same strange details keep showing up. Dogs that refuse to track a scent. Bodies found in places already searched. People found alive with no memory of days that passed. There's a name for this pattern. Researchers call it Missing 411. And once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it.
The term comes from former police officer David Poladias, who spent over a decade combing through thousands of missing persons cases tied to America's wilderness areas, national parks, forests, and remote clusters of land. He wasn't looking for ghost stories. He was looking for statistics. And what he found was a set of recurring conditions that show up again and again in these cases, far more often than random chance should allow. Cases cluster near berry bushes and thick brush. They cluster near boulder fields and granite formations. Search dogs that normally pick up a trail within minutes sometimes can't get a single hit. Weather turns suddenly. Fog rolling in out of nowhere. Rain starting the moment a search begins. And some of the missing are found in places search teams had already gone over, sometimes more than once. None of that proves anything supernatural on its own. But the pattern is the story. And once park rangers, researchers, and families start comparing notes, that pattern is hard to explain. On June 14th, 1969, 6-year-old Dennis Martin was on a family camping trip in the Great Smoky Mountains with his father, grandfather, and brother. The boys were playing a prank on the adults, splitting up to jump out and scare them. Dennis ran behind a bush a few yards off the trail. He was never seen again. Within hours, family members were searching. Within a day, the largest search operation in the history of the National Park Service was underway. Hundreds of soldiers, park rangers, and civilian volunteers combing the mountainside. Bloodhounds were brought in. Helicopters flew overhead. Nothing turned up. Not a shoe, not a scrap of clothing, nothing. To this day, Dennis Martin has never been found. No remains, no trace, no explanation. In an area that dense, with that many searchers, that fast, how does a child just disappear? Dennis Martin isn't an outlier. He's one data point in a pattern that repeats across national parks from the Sierra Nevada to the Appalachians to the Pacific Northwest. Polides' research groups recurring elements. Victims found without shoes, sometimes without any clothes at all, even in freezing conditions. Victims found miles from where they vanished, in terrain they shouldn't have been able to cross in the time available. Multiple disappearances tied to the same specific geographic points, sometimes decades apart. And the official explanation, when there is one, is almost always some version of got disoriented, even when the physical evidence doesn't line up. The National Park Service doesn't formally track a missing 411 category, and most rangers will tell you these are simply hard search and rescue cases in unforgiving terrain. But the families of the missing rarely walk away satisfied with that answer. So, what's actually going on? Nobody agrees. The most grounded explanation is also the least satisfying. Wilderness terrain is enormous, unpredictable, and unforgiving. And search technology in the 1960s and 70s, and even in more remote parks today, simply isn't good enough to find everyone in time. Others point to predator activity, arguing some cases are animal attacks that leave little trace in dense, wet forest. And then there are the theories the National Park Service will never officially engage with, that some of these clusters point to something in these specific locations that current science can't yet explain. And Dennis Martin's case isn't isolated. Across the decades, similar stories keep surfacing in America's parks. In 1976, 16-year-old Trenny Lynn Gibson was hiking with a school group in the Great Smoky Mountains, the same park as Dennis Martin, just a few miles away. She was walking with dozens of classmates and 2 teachers on a well-marked trail. Somewhere along that trail, she fell behind the group. She was never seen again. Despite an extensive search, no trace of her was ever found. In 1981, Stacy Arras, a 14-year-old on a horseback trip in Yosemite National Park, separated briefly from her group to photograph the scenery. She vanished, within what searchers estimated was a matter of minutes. Search teams combed the area for weeks. To this day,
her case remains unsolved. And in 1980, Paul Fugate, a park ranger at Chiricahua National Monument in Arizona, walked out of his ranger station for a routine patrol and never came back. A trained professional on land he knew better than almost anyone disappeared without a struggle, without a trace, in broad daylight.
different parks, different decades, different circumstances, but the same ending. Nothing found, no explanation offered, and a case file that's still technically open. What connects Dennis Martin in Tennessee to hikers vanishing in the Pacific Northwest and Yellowstone visitors gone without a trace isn't a single killer or a single explanation. It's a pattern spread across 50 years and thousands of square miles of American wilderness, one that official investigations keep circling back to and keep failing to close. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just how big and unforgiving the wild really is. Or maybe some of these places are keeping a secret we haven't figured out yet. If this is the kind of mystery that gets under your skin, subscribe, because this isn't the last unexplained case we're digging into.